There are moments in life when you don't realize you've changed someone forever. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't make promises. You simply showed up with patience, understanding, and a kind of love that felt safe. And somehow that reached a place inside him no one else ever touched. If a man has ever gone quiet around you, not distant, but thoughtful, that's not coincidence. That's his soul responding. Because when you touch a man's soul, he doesn't just feel attraction. He feels truth. He feels seen. He feels understood in ways he can't explain. And here's the part most people miss. Men don't always say it out loud, but their actions reveal everything. Stay with me till the end, because the final sign might completely change how you see love and yourself. Comment your location where you're watching from, subscribe to the channel for deeper psychology of love. When you touch a man's soul, the first thing that changes is not his words, but his emotional posture. He no longer feels the need to perform, impress, or stay guarded around you. Psychology tells us that men are often conditioned to associate vulnerability with risk of rejection, judgment, or loss of control. So when a man begins to lower those defenses in your presence, it's not accidental. It's a response to emotional safety. You've created a space where he doesn't feel evaluated, he feels accepted. You may notice that he starts sharing parts of himself he rarely reveals. Not just surface-level stories, but the quiet truths, his doubts, his disappointments, the moments that shaped him but never made it into conversation before. This isn't emotional dumping. It's selective openness. Philosophically speaking, this is where intimacy actually begins, not with physical closeness, but with the courage to be seen as he truly is. When a man allows you into that inner space, it's because he senses that you won't weaponize his honesty against him. What's important to understand is that this vulnerability often shows up subtly. He may speak slower. He may pause more. He may struggle to find the right words. That hesitation isn't weakness, it's authenticity. His mind is no longer filtering for image. It's reaching for truth. From a psychological standpoint, this indicates trust-based attachment rather than ego-based attraction. He's not trying to win you, he's trying to connect. And here's where many people misinterpret the moment. When a man becomes emotionally open, he might also become quieter, more reflective. Some mistake this for distance. In reality, it's integration. He's processing feelings he hasn't given himself permission to feel before. You've become a mirror reflecting parts of him back to himself. That kind of emotional reflection can be unsettling, but it's also transformative. Notice how he reacts when he's emotionally exposed. Does he stay present instead of shutting down? Does he return to the conversation later, even if it was uncomfortable? These behaviors matter more than grand gestures. They signal emotional courage. Psychology consistently shows that men bond most deeply with the people who allow them to be emotionally congruent, where thoughts, feelings, and actions align without pretense. Touching a man's soul doesn't mean fixing him or carrying his emotional weight. It means holding space without control, listening without interruption, and responding without judgment. That's rare. And rarity creates value. When a man experiences that level of emotional safety, he doesn't forget it because it rewires how he understands connection. So reflect on this. If someone feels safe enough to remove their emotional armor around you, they're not just trusting you with their feelings, they're trusting you with who they are. And that kind of trust is never casual. When you touch a man's soul, something shifts beyond emotion. It settles into his nervous system. Your presence doesn't just excite him, it regulates him. Psychology shows us that deep emotional bonds are often revealed not through intensity, but through calm. When a man feels at ease around you, when his breathing slows and his mind feels less cluttered, it's because you've become a place of emotional grounding. This is not boredom. This is safety. And safety is what allows real attachment to take root. You'll notice that he seeks you out not only in moments of joy, but in moments of pressure. After a difficult day, a personal setback, or a moment of internal confusion, he gravitates toward you. Philosophically, this speaks to the human desire for coherence, our need to return to something that restores balance. You become that reference point. Not because you fix his problems, but because your presence reminds him of who he is beneath the noise of the world. There's a subtle confidence that emerges in him when this happens. He becomes less reactive, less defensive. He doesn't feel the need to prove himself constantly. From a psychological lens, this is emotional anchoring. His system recognizes you as a stabilizing force. And when a man experiences that kind of peace with someone, it creates a bond that is deeper than passion alone. Passion fades and fluctuates. Peace endures. This calm also reveals itself in silence. He's comfortable not filling every moment with words. There's no anxiety in the pauses. Silence becomes shared rather than awkward. That's a sign of emotional attunement, two people existing in the same emotional space without tension. Most connections can't tolerate silence because they're built on performance. A soul-level connection doesn't require constant stimulation. It thrives in presence. It's important to understand that this kind of peace is not passive. It doesn't mean you lose your individuality or become emotionally neutral. Instead, it means there's mutual emotional respect. He feels accepted without being absorbed, seen without being controlled. This balance is rare, and psychologically speaking, rarity increases attachment. When peace is present, the mind stops scanning for threats and starts investing in continuity. Many people underestimate how powerful this is. They believe love should feel like chaos or constant intensity. But research and philosophy both suggest that the most meaningful bonds are those that bring clarity, not confusion. When a man associates you with emotional clarity, he begins to value you beyond impulse. You become part of his internal sense of stability. So pay attention to how he feels after being with you. Not just happy, but settled. Not just excited, but centered. If your presence leaves him more grounded than before, you haven't just caught his attention. You've touched his soul. And once someone experiences peace with you, they don't search for noise anymore. When you touch a man's soul, his sense of time begins to change. He stops relating to you only in the present moment and starts placing you into his future. This shift is subtle but powerful. Psychologically, it marks the transition from emotional attraction to emotional investment. A man who has been touched at a soul level no longer acts impulsively. He acts with intention. His choices begin to include you, even when you're not physically present. You may notice that his consistency deepens. He follows through. He remembers what matters to you. He shows up when it would be easier not to. These are not gestures driven by obligation. They are expressions of alignment. Philosophically, intention reflects meaning. When someone finds meaning in a connection, they naturally protect it. He begins to behave in ways that preserve continuity rather than chase stimulation. This is also where responsibility quietly enters the picture. He becomes more mindful of how his actions affect you. Words carry more weight for him now. He thinks before he speaks, not out of fear, but out of respect. Psychology tells us that this kind of behavior emerges when empathy becomes integrated into identity. He's not trying to manage your emotions. He's honoring them. Another sign of this shift is how he navigates uncertainty. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, he engages them. He may not have all the answers, but he no longer disappears when things feel complex. From a philosophical perspective, commitment is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to remain present despite it. When a man stays engaged during emotional discomfort, it's because the connection has become larger than his need to escape discomfort. You'll also see this in the way he plans. He speaks in we rather than I. He considers how decisions today affect the shared future. This doesn't mean he loses his independence. In fact, healthy long-term thinking requires a strong sense of self. What changes is that his identity expands to include the relationship as something worth investing in. Psychology refers to this as relational integration, the point at which a bond becomes part of how someone understands themselves. What's important to note is that this level of intention cannot be forced. It emerges organically when emotional safety, peace, and respect are already present. When a man feels seen, grounded, and valued, his natural response is to build, not retreat. His actions become quieter but more reliable, less dramatic but more meaningful. This is where many people look for grand declarations and miss the real evidence. The deepest form of love isn't loud. It's steady. It's the decision to stay, to consider, to act with care even when no one is watching. That's what soul-level influence looks like in real life. So here's the reflection to carry with you. When someone consistently chooses you through their actions, not just their emotions, they're revealing the depth of your impact. And when you inspire intention rather than impulse, you haven't just touched a man's heart, you've shaped his direction.